Two earthquakes just hit Japan on opposite ends of the country, less than a day apart. And the question everyone's asking is the same one you're probably asking right now. Are these connected? One shook Tokyo out of bed at 2 in the morning. The other struck a fishing coastline 650 kilometers north, closer to midnight. Same country, same night, completely different reasons. Let's start with what actually happened, in order. At 2 in the morning local time, a magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck near Tsukuba in Ibaraki Prefecture, shaking Tokyo and the entire Kanto region awake. 37 people were injured. A water main burst in Tokyo's Koto district. Train lines shut down for safety checks. And the Japan Meteorological Agency did something it doesn't do casually. It issued an official warning that another quake of similar strength could hit the same area within the next 2 to 3 days. Then, about 21 hours later, at almost 11 at night, a second earthquake hit. Magnitude 6.0 this time, even stronger, but not anywhere near Tokyo. This one struck roughly 700 kilometers, about 430 miles, to the north in the ocean off Yorikawa on the southern coast of Hokkaido. Japan's meteorological agency confirmed there was no tsunami risk from this one, and at the time of recording, no injuries or damage have been reported. So here's the real question. 2 strong earthquakes, one day, opposite ends of the country. Same volcanic arc, same island nation sitting on the ring of fire. But are they actually part of the same event, or just 2 separate systems that happen to go off within hours of each other? The short answer is no. And understanding why is where this gets genuinely interesting. Tokyo sits on top of one of the strangest pieces of geology on the planet. 3 tectonic plates meet almost directly underneath the Kanto region. The Pacific Plate, the Philippine Sea Plate, and the plate that Japan's main islands ride on. Nowhere else on Earth do you get quite this kind of tectonic pileup under a city of 37 million people, each one sliding at a slightly different speed and a slightly different angle. That's roughly what's happening in the crust under Tokyo, except the sheets are dozens of kilometers thick, and the friction between them is what produces earthquakes. That's part of why Tokyo earthquakes are so unpredictable. The stress isn't coming from one direction, it's coming from a jumble of plates grinding past and underneath each other at different angles and different depths. The Ibaraki quake happened deep, 68 kilometers down, inside that plate collision zone, not on a shallow surface fault. It's also why this region doesn't get treated lightly, no matter how many quakes it produces in a normal year. In 1923, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake centered almost exactly in this same triple junction zone, destroyed much of Tokyo and Yokohama, and killed over 100,000 people. And it's the reason building codes, evacuation drills, and early warning systems across the Kanto region are as aggressive as they are today. A magnitude 5.9 is nowhere near that scale, but it's exactly the kind of tremor that makes seismologists double-check whether it's an isolated event or the opening act of something larger. Which is precisely why the JMA's 48 to 72-hour warning matters more here than it would almost anywhere else in the country. The Hokkaido quake is a completely different animal, and honestly, a stranger one. Down at Urikawa, you're not looking at one plate sliding under another in the usual textbook way. You're looking at a spot where 2 separate volcanic arcs are physically running into each other. The Kuril Arc, which curves down from Russia's Kuril Islands, and the northeastern Japan Arc, colliding almost head-on at the southern tip of Hokkaido. Geologists call it the Hidaka Collision Zone, and it's rare enough that there isn't really another example quite like it in Japan. That same collision is what's been slowly pushing up the Hidaka Mountains for millions of years. The earthquakes and the mountain range are 2 symptoms of the exact same underlying crash. This corner of Hokkaido has done this before. In 1982, a magnitude 6.9 earthquake hit almost the same offshore spot, injured over 160 people as far away as Sapporo, and was, at the time, the strongest earthquake ever recorded in that region. It's worth being precise here because it would be easy to lump this in with the other headline-making earthquakes Japan's had further south. Just 200 kilometers away, the coast near Aomori and Senriku has had its own brutal year. A magnitude 7.6 earthquake in December of 2025 that injured 47 people and damaged more than 5,000 buildings, followed by a magnitude 7.7 earthquake in April of this year that forced nearly 176,000 people to evacuate. Those 2 quakes happened on the Japan Trench, where the Pacific Plate dives cleanly under Japan. Tonight's magnitude 6 in Hokkaido happened on the Hidaka Collision Zone, a genuinely different structure, next door geographically, but not the same fault, not the same mechanism, and not proof that the whole northern half of the country is somehow rupturing at once. Which means what actually happened today isn't Japan had one big coincidence. It's two separate unrelated fault systems, each doing what that particular patch of crust does, releasing energy on the same calendar day almost by chance. The kind of overlap that looks dramatic on a map, but doesn't mean the plates are talking to each other. Seismologists have looked hard for evidence that a quake in one part of Japan can trigger a completely unrelated fault hundreds of kilometers away. And outside of very specific, very close-range cases, the honest answer is not like this. 700 kilometers is too far for one earthquake to have physically nudged the other into rupturing. What's actually happening is something less cinematic, but arguably more useful to understand. Japan currently has 3 separate active earthquake stories running at once, and tonight just happened to touch 2 of them on the same day. In Kanto, there's a live 48 to 72-hour warning window for another strong shake near Tokyo. Off Hokkaido, there's the Hidaka Collision Zone, a system that hadn't produced anything this size since 1982 and just woke back up. And further south, the Aomori Sanriku coast is still working through its own aftershock sequence from those 2 much larger earthquakes, a story that has nothing to do with tonight's Hokkaido quake, even though it's the closest neighbor on the map. All 3 are real, all 3 are being monitored independently, and none of them explains or causes the other. That's genuinely rare. Japan averages a lot of earthquakes, thousands of small ones every year. But having 2 distinct, actively monitored, elevated risk zones running at the same time on opposite coasts is not the normal baseline. It's a reminder of just how much seismic real estate sits under this one country, and how many different fault systems are quietly doing their own thing under the same island chain at once. So what happens next? In Kanto, the window the JMA warned about runs through roughly the next 2 days. That's the number actually worth watching, not the earthquake count. Off Hokkaido, expect a normal tale of smaller aftershocks over the coming days, the ordinary pattern that follows most magnitude 6 events. Though scientists will now be watching that stretch of the Hidaka Collision Zone more closely than they have since the 80s. Neither of these is a sign that a bigger, connected megaquake is forming across the country. They're separate chapters of separate ongoing stories, and tonight, 2 of them just happened to land on the same page. For anyone actually living through this, in Tokyo, that means the practical advice from Japanese authorities hasn't changed. Secure furniture that could fall, know your building's evacuation route, and treat the next 2 to 3 days as a window where being caught off guard is more likely than usual, not a reason to panic. In Hokkaido, tonight's quake is a reminder that even a corner of the country that's been quiet for over 40 years can still produce something this size without warning. And that the Aomori Sanriku sequence 1 province over is a completely separate situation that residents there should keep tracking on its own terms. If you want to follow either of these, the Kanto warning window or the Aomori Sanriku sequence, the playlist has every update in order, right where this one leaves off.